Hello and welcome to the Morningscape podcast. I am Matt Moody here with DJ Mitchell. Going to do another draft, maybe two drafts, depending on how the lobbies fill, over on the Underdog NHL Best Puck Tournament. So, hello to the viewers out there. Hello to the audio listeners. DJ, how are you doing on Tuesday evening?
Good. Sorry, I was just grabbing the YouTube link, so I was hearing you double there. No, good. Ready to go. Just jumped in the lobby. We're waiting on 7, so we'll just talk till it fills. Disappointed we're not going to be playing NCAA football though, nonetheless, because still haven't played.
Well, trust me, you would not have been playing tonight either. You would have been watching somebody play. Me, you could just watch somebody else play. It's everywhere on YouTube, on Twitch.
Want it? No, it's a team effort with us. It's been like, how many hours do you think we logged playing together as children,
dude?
Like
700.
Really think it through. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah. You got to think it was at least in middle school we started all the way pretty much through sophomore year of college, because we played after the game stopped coming out.
Yeah, I fired up my Xbox 360, got it working again, and was playing for a while, when that craze kind of came back again, and everyone was kind of just sitting at home. I was like, yeah, I'll fire it back up again. Let's get going, nothing else to do this weekend.
Oh yeah, no. If we're talking individually, it's in the thousands. But I would say together, sitting in the same room, eating, ramen noodles or whatever, eating out of the bag of homemade croutons your parents used to make for me when I would show up. That's in the several hundreds easily. So yeah, I'm not saying it would not be fun to do. I just don't think it would be appropriate to tell people to come watch us talk about NHL Best Puck Fantasy, but then also watch me try to switch screens to a really shitty PlayStation remote thing and try to follow what the hell is going on. I just don't. I did not see the vision.
No, the vision's bad. I don't know what the right vision is though. I don't know. I feel like there's just stuff that we could try that could be fun, that would get new people. And I'm not trying to be negative by saying that. Everyone that's here is great, and we've built a community, and I love that community, and I love everyone that joins. But I hate the one thing that everyone hates about drafting Best Puck is just the wait time. And I would be so much happier if we had another 20 psychopaths, and it's just getting that next 20, you know what I mean? And then that gets that next, it keeps going and going and going and going. And it's just hard to figure out a way to do it, because people aren't just going to find me or you. Well, they're certainly not going to find Underdog through hockey. So it's we have to either get people that are on Underdog to come check it out, which we've done a good job of doing, I think, in many respects. So what else is left to milk? And that is getting people that are really into hockey to check it out, or getting people that are, I don't know, which is I get this is stupid, but if they find us and see what we're doing, it's funny, it's interesting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you really like hockey, maybe you'll check it out. I like the game too. I don't know. There's got to be a different path.
The thing is, we don't have a problem in September filling these lobbies. We just don't.
I know.
It's the middle of July. I'm just, I'm not really in this doom and gloom of it sucks when you have to wait 30 minutes to start a draft on a stream. By the way, if you are in here, we are sitting in the lobby. We need 5 more to draft. But yeah, there's really, I just don't think it's the site's fault or the lobby's fault. This is a $25,000 to first contest. It's really, really big for the game we're playing. No. So I'm not really, 200,000 total prize pool. It's just I don't know, literally DraftKings gets this twice a year, and they are much larger than Underdog, and they're not competing against the NFL. Literally, we're competing against the NFL right now.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with everything you're saying. It's just to me, I guess the more I think through kind of everything, right? Like all the sports, everything going on, what makes what keeps hockey behind is that it's never the conversation. Like it's never the main conversation until maybe the playoffs where it becomes at least a bigger part of the conversation, but it's never the main talking point. And I get that in late July, it's incredibly hard to thread that needle, even if hockey does grow by a good margin. Like they're not even in training camp yet. Like you're still seeing players posting pictures in Sweden and Finland, and so it's like not that surprising. But I do just I hate this is what I hate the most in the world. Okay, and I joke around about it, but in the world's kind of strong. It's not that's my least favorite thing, but the fact that people just post about fantasy sports like it's only football, like it frustrates me. Like that's why I quote tweet the things I quote tweet and say that then make them about hockey because it's like we are all just accustomed to like fantasy sports or football, and like hockey is very much a sport that needs to be played in the best ball format, and it's much better suited for it. And getting new people to try it is what it's all about. So yeah, I talk about this every single stream, so I'm sure we love it.
I will say be careful what you wish for because right now we are able to get basic. I mean, what we're able to get 2,700. Is that what 15 times 150 is? We're able to get that in and have a very positive expectation on it. I can tell you from my experience in the NHL lobby, you get a lot of people, you get a lot of attention, you get a lot of tools and attention toward the game, and it does get a lot tougher. So I
Yeah.
personally feel like we're in a pretty good sweet spot of like, nobody's actually paying any attention
Well,
to the NHL. And honestly, I think that makes it better for us. Like, yeah, we're competing against each other right now, but in mid-September, we're going to be in perfect form, with 50 drafts left to bang out. And there's going to be 4 dead people per lobby who just have no idea what's going on. And yeah, ADP will help them a little
okay.
bit. But like, structurally, like there's just a whole lot I think that we are benefiting from because it's a relatively low interest sport and we still get a decent prize pool. Like, it's not fantastic, but it's still really, really good. So I'm
I
just
think
not going to get greedy and say, oh, I
okay.
need 100K to first to feel something.
Yeah, I okay. First off, yeah, and again, like Numi mentions, Numi not underdog. Not the person that works for Underdog Numi, which we've talked about quite often. But it's like they could do a better job promoting it. They don't really need to because it's going to fill without it, and like they are putting so much effort behind football, and it makes sense. Like I'm not arguing it really, but I guess my point, or like to go back on what you're saying, is that you think we're in this sweet spot, whereas like with football I think that there's still so like it's not solved in any capacity for any sport, let alone hockey. I know we've come a long way with what we've done, and the NFL as well. But like the NFL is reaching a point now where they're like, and we mentioned it right at the end of the last show, like they're bringing in all of these casuals that never tried this and have absolutely no idea what they're doing. So like to think that any of this is even getting close to like where I think you're taking DFS is just like not even remotely close to the NHL, let alone football,
Well,
where it's like now we're adding all of these apps. Like people are drafting horrendously based on whatever brought them in.
yeah,
Like that's growing. Like, why can't
people
hockey do the
play
same? I don't know.
people play DFS horrendously too. It doesn't, like the
Yeah,
thing with baseball is that there's so much variance because you're playing a single slate that like no matter how good you are, you're never
yeah,
going to guarantee yourself a profit. Like, yeah, 150, you might get closer to a guaranteed profit, but like, there's just so much variance when you play a single slate.
yeah. I mean, I don't
We
know.
are
I don't
drafting
know.
back to back, of course, as always.
Yep, of course, the 7-8 turn. Yep, we got the 101 in here. What shall Bates start us off with here? Um, I mean, it's definitely already okay. Let me start by ADP. I just got to get rid of these rankings. I just had them in there to like help me from the beginning. I just got to turn them off because I don't need them right now. Yeah, Matthews goes. I mean, Matthews might end up jumping McKinnon, but I think it's like the stream lobbies. This is happening sometimes, and all the other lobbies, it's not. But yeah, wait, where's? Oh, GA made it right at the end. Oh, nice GA. You slipped in. I don't know. We could definitely get on the soapbox of like why hockey is not growing in general, which again is like that's like the genesis of my argument is that like hockey isn't growing and it's because of the NHL and because of how bad they've done at marketing the sport, making it important, growing it in ways that are outside of their general ticket revenue. And like I just don't want to like continue to perpetuate the same motion of like I don't know, not trying something new and different. Okay, you go Kaprizov here. I do think this is the first interesting pick. It's kind of fun to have the 7-8 because I'm pretty indifferent on Miko versus Kaprizov.
Wow.
Are you staunchly Kaprizov over Rantanen?
For now, yeah, I'm just trying to stick a little to my priors from 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was that I sort of came out with my like initial rankings. But yeah, first interesting pick. I mean, no credit given to Austin Matthews from Bates there. Ouch.
Or I guess Brady's not that crazy there. No, I mean it is. I mean it's just like that. He literally is like I'm gonna pull a moods, and he did. I mean,
Yeah.
power to him.
Well, I mean, some people, when they call their shots and say that a player is better than another player, will actually draft that way rather than go, well, actually, I'm scared. So even though I think Matthews is better than McDavid, I'm going to take McDavid. So
I mean,
interesting
I'm
how
not
that
taking the
works.
bait anymore from you. I'm not taking the bait anymore from you.
Okay.
It's just what you're saying is stupid and wrong and stupid.
All right. We'll move
We are
on to
quite an interesting lobby.
that question there. Thoughts on the $15 entry instead of 10? Yeah, I'm all for the flatter payout structures. Makes it easier to realize your equity. I don't think there's a major difference in like attractiveness in the marketplace. You know, if you see say 40K to first versus 25K, I'm not sure that moves the needle as far as attracting casual action, which of course is, you know, a major reason that these top heavy prizes exist. So I'm pretty content with the, you know, with the move. Obviously, it's an extra $750 that you have to invest before the season starts, but I don't think it's in any way, you know, I don't think it's that big a deal to someone like me or DJ who's going to max it regardless, and I think have a pretty solid expectation. But I do understand some of the gripes at the lower end. You know, if you're only putting in 5 entries a year, it does kind of suck. But I do believe there'll be a smaller dollar entry contest available somewhat soon. I'm on the clock here. Kaprizov.
I feel like I know what you're
I
gonna do,
will
but
take Igor just to make sure I get my high-end goalie. I lightly prefer Igor over Hellebuck, so why not?
yeah, I once again like, and again, I think you're gonna call me a coward, which please continue to call me a coward, but I just feel like there's just no sense in trying to guess between the three all that much. Like I'm probably gonna end up with more Igor and Saros over Hellebuck just because it seems like everyone is just jumping to get Hellebuck as early as possible, and I guess whatever. I think I might be flipping on taking Igor over Saros though. But again, I feel like it's not significant enough of a difference that I want to be overexposed to any of the three because I think they're all like similar in upside. I think that you can make the case that Hellebuck and Saros have more upside than Igor week to week, but like on the season, I don't know if you're going to convince me that they're better than Igor. So it's like, you see what I'm saying there? If that makes sense, I can explain a little bit more, but I feel like you probably just get me up right up on like
I
the
just
shot volume they're going to face for Igor.
no, I think Igor's starts are more set in stone. They did not do anything to reinforce their backup position versus Winnipeg and Nashville have much more realist. I mean, I don't think, you know, Hellebuck's not ceding the net to what was it? Was it Lankinen?
Comrie?
No, he's the 3. They signed him to be the 3.
Yeah, gotta be. All right, you can look. They got rid of Brassois.
Kakinen. Like, I don't think they're seeding the net, but there's at least new variable or new like levels to the equation to consider versus in with the Rangers. I mean, freaking Jonathan Quick. Like, come on. I don't see Igor getting any less than 55, 60 starts in a perfectly healthy season. I really don't understand the Nashville Saros thing. I mean, like Askarov is there. I know Saros signed the major deal, but like I feel like he should be 10 spots later in this Demko, Ottinger, Swayman sort of tier. I don't think Saros is, head and shoulders above those guys like his current ADP suggests.
I mean, head and shoulders seems to me. It's like, I don't know. I think they're all pretty indifferent. I mean, again, like I think the thing that we're forgetting about is how many people are taking their guys because they're only drafting a few lobbies. And like I've seen Saros go like 12. I mean, like there's some stupid stuff going on still, and like it'll probably get back to more of a norm. But again, like I mean, I feel like last year we could have tried to convince ourselves that the Rangers went out and got Jonathan Quick because they didn't think anything, you know what I mean? Like they didn't need to get it back up because they were just going to play Igor. And then Jonathan Quick took the net for a little while. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen again, obviously. Like, I don't believe Jonathan Quick. But like, yeah, exactly. That's like, why would you sit here and be like, actually, I think Hakkanen's good? It's like they're all pretty bad. They're all not NHL starting goaltenders. Like, why are you going to convince yourself one is just better than the others? Like,
well, I think the Rangers are
like all three of them
as well. So it's like a double whammy of
right.
Like
I don't know.
It doesn't feel crazy to say I prefer one player over the other, so I'll draft that player. But okay.
No, I'm not saying that. I guess I just feel like your argument is odd to me. Like, of like, I think I know the backups better.
I'm saying we are dealing with the exact same setup with the Rangers as we have had. And there's new variables in both Winnipeg and in Nashville to consider that.
Yeah, but that setup
don't
wasn't
believe are properly priced in.
Like, okay. I mean, I'm just going to concede at this point. Like, I don't really find belief. That's your belief, and that's fine. But I just feel like that's like saying we saw a bad outcome in New York for Igor in theory. And now that a team like Winnipeg, for example, hold on, let me just make my pick. I'm just gonna take Timo. I'm gonna
I think Winnipeg's gonna get worse. And I think the Rangers will get better than they were last year.
That's fair. And again, like, all right, that's a fair argument. Like, that's kind of my point of like Igor's pretty equal, but like what makes the Rangers better is they limit shot volume, which limits some level of upside, whereas like Nashville and Winnipeg were better at that than expected for sure, but they certainly bled more shots, and like that week to week upside when those guys get the maximum number of starts could be just as high if not higher than Igor. So like,
yeah, I'm not considering shot volume in the slightest. I don't care. I care about starts and I care about wins. Wins lead to shot volume against because of score effects, and ultimately, yeah, I'm not really following the confusion here. Like, okay. I feel like I said a pretty innocuous statement of I'm drafting a goalie. I will take Igor over Hellebuck, and I have multiple reasons why I listed those reasons, and I'm kind of shocked that you're pushing back on them so hard.
I think you're wrong. Let's get to some questions in the chat. I don't know why Mike is so interested in Buffalo Sabres like Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin. I guess he knows that we're a Sabres first podcast. So when am I drafting Tage? Likely at ADP or maybe a little later. He's jumped up quite a bit. I think Dahlin is exactly correct at where he's going. But I don't think either of them are all that crazy. Like Tage is jumping around. I think people are just like running up to get him when they don't know what they're doing, and they're taking their third center at like 58 because they don't know what they're doing. But I don't really think you need to do that. Like he's not so much marketably better. Oh my God, please just let me draft. Why is this tweaking out on me? Okay. But yeah, I'm going to continue to wait on goalie for the first time. I don't think I've gone this long ever, but any thoughts on the Sabres players? Because I mean, we have talked a good bit about the Sabres. Like any thoughts on like where they're going, if any of them are of value?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident that Tage is a good value where he's going. just for the upside that he possesses as far as goal scoring and like team environment, I think has to get better. He obviously had a pretty down year, but that literally tanked his ADP like 40 spots. We're not talking about the same price as last year. When you say, all of the Sabres, we've talked about Peterka many a time. My general consensus is that he's fine, especially as the wing starts to slide upward ADP wise. Like it's just tougher to get guys. But Jack Quinn, I think, has a realistic opportunity to sort of be like, if you told me Jack Quinn outscored Peterka, I would not be shocked. Quinn is, I believe, drafted in just about every draft these days, so you're not getting like any real leverage there. But he does go, in several rounds later than Peterka. So I'm been making sure the mix in both. Like I'm not going to be overweight Peterka to Quinn for any particular reason. And I will obviously readdress this when we get to training camp because there is the Skinner replacement that we really need to figure out, whether that's going to be Peterka on the top line or something else and on the top power play.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the perfect point, honestly. And like you think you trust us on it. But like honestly, I feel like the problem is like I don't even trust myself right now entirely because like we don't know what the top power play is. What we know is that Lindy Ruff plans on starting one unit as a unit number one. That is going to have Tage. It's going to have Dahlin. I guess it's very likely going to have Tuck. Other than that, I really don't know. The consensus is probably Cousins, Peterka, and that might be wrong. So I do think everyone's probably about correct. I mean, Peterka, we've kind of jumped the shark a bit on that one. I mean, up to 92 at 0.6 now, and I just feel like he keeps climbing. It's getting pretty difficult to feel good about that price with other guys that are just much more established in their role right around him. But it is kind of, could be closer to right if we get confirmation that he's top line, top power play, but still seems a bit crazy. Whereas like Quinn could be an ultra value. I just think Tage and Dahlin are right, right where they are. And they're kind of like Dahlin is falling, maybe unnecessarily, but I do think people are just getting in front of the winger avalanche, which now is just there.
Yeah, so I haven't spent much time. Like I haven't seen any projections. I have not spent time generating anything that can be construed as projections. So that's, I'm only probably going to do 30 drafts before like the first set of athletic and puck luck and everything else comes out projections wise to actually sort of, comb through and see where the values lie based on some numbers and, stress test those. So, I could be very off. I'm not that worried about it though, because I believe the bulk of my drafts will be in a much more set environment as far as roles and projection and, everything else. So, it's all very fluid, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to get over the top on anyone who's maybe an unknown, someone like Peterka, where the role is obviously there. And it's very possible that he goes in the 60s by the time, the season starts because he takes the Slavkovsky path where everyone's like, wait, he's line one, power play one, and has production in his past. Like, yeah, we need to jam him. I get that. It could happen, but I'm not like that scared that I'm going to miss out on like generational wealth as a result of it or anything.
Yeah. That's probably a good way to put it. So you're back on the clock here. We'll review our teams after this pick. So, why don't we just review? You have Pedersen, Kaprizov, Kempe, Tippett, Shesterkin, and Wool. Took Wool a bit early. What are you going to lock in here?
Yeah,
okay.
I got a little worried I was going to get goalie avalanched because between I really only care about Jari, Wool. Wait, what?
Yeah. I think I almost did. Like I may have honestly, but I'm going to grab Jari here. But yeah, no, I was just saying you were worried about getting goalie avalanche. I felt like I basically had, so I am going to take Jari here.
When you took Olmark, that was certainly my signal of like, there's three goalies I care about before, if I don't get my second goalie there, I don't feel great about it. Anyway, do you want to keep moving through comments?
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to recap my team for any audio listener. Right now I have Rantanen, Boldly, Timo Mayer, Iru, Kale McCarr, and Linus Olmark, and then Tristan Jarry, as I just mentioned. So yeah, I mean, the next question, and this is one that I feel like this one's always difficult to, I think, go too deeply, and like, because every team can be a bit different, but again, stacking in football versus hockey, you know, he got the Tampa line, power play one. Yeah, I mean, there's upside in the playoffs to stacking it to some extent, but again, like, it's just, you can't take too much of it and continue to jam more and more of it, because you're just eating your upside and eating your potential advancement rate at a pretty good clip when you go overboard on it. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Matt, like, any initial thoughts on that? Just,
Yeah,
maybe just work in this example. Like, you start Kucherov and Gensel. Like, are you considering making sure you get Braden Point, or are you like worried about that not working out and now you've kind of cannibalized that stat? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No, I think it's I actually feel like I feel like it's more of a bet on the season than it is on an individual week. Because the problem is with the stacking in individual weeks is that you only have 6 slots to fill. You know, you have a center, 2 wings, a defenseman, a goalie, and a flex. Those are the only players that score for your team. So if you drafted, 10 Buffalo Sabres and the Buffalo Sabres go 82-0 and they win, every game 11-0, you're still only scoring, 6 of those players. So like, it's not like you're getting some massive, well, now I'm on the clock trying to speak as well. I'm just going to grab Hagel. Actually, no, I'm gonna grab Batherson. I feel a little bit better about Batherson's path to dominance of this team versus finishing top 2 or 3 scoring wise versus Hagel. So I'll go with Batherson. Why not? But with the stacking conversation, I certainly plan to do some more analysis into generalized stacking. I ran some specific stack numbers and posted that in the Discord a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week ago. If you want to scroll back in the dog app and just see the pictures I've posted, you can search in Discord for that pretty easily. Just learn that functionality and you'll see what I'm talking about there. So like the specific stacks, I don't really think are that relevant moving forward. They're just sort of interesting to think about. In general, though, I think that stacking is better from an advancement rate perspective, honestly, because you're betting on the team outperforming their expectations. And that, I think, rewards you more over the course of a season than it does in an individual week because of what I said with the scoring dynamics. This is an NFL where in any given week of NFL, there'll be 32 teams times, maybe 3 or 4 wide receivers. That's like 100 guys. And, every league scores 36 of them, plus a flex possibly. Like, you're talking, a lot of players scoring like each week. You're just not really getting that same like phenomenon with hockey where there's so few players that score that the correlation effects within a week are, like you say, a little bit more limiting of your ceiling because only one guy can score all the goals. But there's also more considerations. There's things like the number of games in a week. If you stack a team that has 4 games in a playoff week, maybe you grab some other guys that can fill in the other weeks. Where Tampa might have 2 games or something as a result. Like, I don't know what the actual schedules look like, but that sort of stuff does exist, and I think is worth considering when you're drafting and heavily invested in a certain team or player.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything you just said. It gave me a couple ideas, but we're on the clock, so let me let you pick first, and then I'll pick. I don't want to distract us too much here.
Well, here's another development. They announced Smichkov. I mean, we already knew he was coming over, but his debut or whatever, his initial press conference is tomorrow, and he's number 39. Thoughts on number 39 for Matvei Michkov?
Not much. Who the heck has been 39? Yeah. That's been, I mean, with Couture? Was that Couture, right?
Yeah, Dominic Hasek.
I'm trying to think of any of the 39s. Hasek, yeah. Oh, right behind me. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
39.
Look at that. Nice.
That's a good point. I just wasn't thinking about goalies at all. I was trying to think of like a forward, but yeah, no, I mean, in general, I mean, I made a tweet about it. And like, I do think, number one, I want to make it pretty clear that I think 103 is absolutely the peak. Like, you're buying you're buying incredibly high on him, but that exists because this is a prospect that was viewed like okay, he's not Bedard, but he's clearly number 2, and like it's not that insane. And then a lot of factors just outside of his his purview and what he could control dictated a lot of negative, maybe I don't even know if I call it regression, because like just his path got cloudy in many ways, and I mean this is the best possible outcome for him and the players. So sure, does the market change at all? Have you looked?
You mean points wise?
I could take a peek. I could take a peek. I'm about to be back on the clock here, but I'll take a look.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I generally believe that that there's not a ton of risk, because it's not like there's many options on Philly where Michkov's going to completely disappear. Like it's either he's good or he's not that good, like to start. And I'm fine with a guy getting the opportunity and not really getting there. When he has such a sterling track record of producing, including production against men, in the second hardest league in the world, as they call the KHL. So, also.
So his projection.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
No, go. Also, no, fine. It's 46.5 minus 130 on the over.
So it's gone. Has that gone down a point or two since it was posted, or no? I think it. I
really don't know, honestly. I could try to find the tweet, but 46.5.
Okay. I'm gonna. I have Elias Pettersson, so yeah, I should be taking Jake DeBrusk. I was about to say, I feel like I want more Jake DeBrusk than I currently have. So, I'll happily take DeBrusk there.
I really don't like. I feel like Velarde versus DeBrusk is honestly interesting, because I feel like we're almost projecting them to do the same thing. No, I mean, like I think we saw Velarde kind of do it incredibly well. That kind of net front power play 1. Playing with a lot of skilled players, and now we're saying DeBrusk, net front power play 1, playing with a lot of skilled players. So I definitely think when you've stacked either of them, and in my case I haven't, but not over yet, I guess. But yeah, you stacking one of them, like, do you think there's a gap between Velarde and DeBrusk? I guess that's the question there.
I would say the range of outcomes for DeBrusk is higher, just because we've seen Velarde in that exact role for basically an entire season. I know he had some injury issues, and Kyle Connor got hurt for a stretch as well. So, it's not a perfect like season long number, but with Jake DeBrusk moving to a new environment entirely, like there's, I think, a lot more volatility, and like he certainly could be much better than anything we've seen from just about any player, in this range, because frankly, we've never really seen DeBrusk get like a solid, 20-minute a night type role. And I'm not saying that's what he's getting in Vancouver as most likely or anything, but at least it's on the table, just because we haven't seen it yet. So that's my relative, I guess, confidence.
I do remember one of the points I wanted to make now about correlation, and we're about to be back on the clock. So I'm going to let you make your pick, and I'm going to hold on to it though, because I do want to get back to it. You're going to take Logan Thompson, which is a really interesting pick, and honestly probably something worth discussing. Actually, let me think about this. You know what? I think I'm just going to do the Nico Hischier with Timo. Anyways, though, my one thing about correlation, I think that I may have gotten a little cloudy on, is when we initially looked at correlation last year, we were seeing quite a bit of like when people overdid it, it was very negative. But thinking back, there were a lot of teams that did not know what they were doing, that were overstacking, and not only overstacking, but just breaking every rule to overstack. So like, one of the first articles I ever wrote, and that, I mean, I think we've only followed up on from there, is like there's kind of like a hierarchy of rules, and correlation is just a bit down the line. That doesn't make it not important. It's just, if you correlate well and you take 8 centers, you still lose. You know what I mean? If you correlate well and you at the risk of breaking all the ADP rules, you lose. Like, don't jump the gun. Don't get out of, get your third center by pick 75, because you can correlate that. Like again, like I think it's always just in the window of what you're doing in that draft. So like I think that maybe we've made it sound like it's so much less important because we want to make it very clear that it is still less important than other things. But when you can get it, and like again, I feel like I leave every draft with a few different stacks. I mean, Miko plus Makar, Busnevich plus Kairu, Hishir plus Timo. Like those are things I'm looking for when I can grab them. I'm not forcing them all though.
I gotta say, DJ, the funniest
Back to you in the
possible thing
studio.
is coming up here. The funniest possible thing is 4
I
picks
know.
away.
Okay. I think I know it. And it's still there for you if you want it. My debate. Oh boy. I was really planning on taking a defenseman here, so I think I'm just gonna stick to it and take Jake Sanderson. Although, I'm gonna take Hanifin. So let me see what you do now.
I so much prefer John Carlson, and I just drafted Logan Thompson. I don't really care about that. But taking Brock Faber on a Kirill Kaprizov team 15 spots after ADP feels like something I would do if I actually cared about like spreading out my bets. So in lieu of the non 7-3 or whatever 3-7-3-3 GA, here's your Brock Faber pick from Moods to sort of extend an olive branch to the community.
I could have put him with Boldly, but I just feel like I much prefer Hanifin. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, again, you could make an argument, but
yeah, I was definitely going to take Carlson if not Faber. Like Hanifin is definitely third there. I have taken some Hanifin. I've taken some Hanifin because I think it's the structure, the team, the power play that I want to invest in more than the player. Because Vegas historically has very strong, production from their defensemen via shots and blocks and whatever else.
Yeah.
And involvement on the power play where they're not afraid to roll 2 guys on a unit, even a top unit, as the Alec Martinez days helpfully showed us. So that's not my, like I'm not concerned that Hanifin will be bad. But he's not like a guy who I feel like has slate winning upside to me versus I think Carlson has that. But yeah, at the end of the day, if Faber is on the top power play for Minnesota, I do think that my 2 main team bets are that Minnesota and LA are just going to be like really solid regular season teams like they are pretty much every year. Minnesota was not last year, but like I think there are several reasons for that won't be repeated. And so if I can, not take a guy who, if I can take a guy 15 spots after ADP who could be that number 1 guy and it's going to play a shit ton of minutes regardless, then I'd probably be a fool not to, getting super crazy with 0% everyone type fades. So why not? I'll take my 2%, 3% fader.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, if you want to say John Carlson's you're one there. I just feel like Hanifin, Carlson, and Sanderson are like, again, I'm pretty indifferent on all of them because you can make a different upside case, and we've seen the upside case from all of them, even last year. So like, I don't really have a problem with any of the 3. I guess Faber, I find a little bit harder to say like this guy has the shot upside that I want. You take Chikrin here, which is kind of the bet against John Carlson. Where he could fail is because Chikrin takes over. So like, I guess that makes sense. Oh man, I like so much at this pick. Like everything I was hoping would slide to me did, and now I have to make a very difficult decision. And I'm just gonna take Robert Thomas and move on. Like I was gonna take Hurdle, but just give me the full freaking St. Louis stack. I mean, who's doing it? Who's doing Robert Thomas, Kairu, and Busnevich all together? Smart people.
You know I like.
Are you team Hurdle over Robert Thomas? I feel like I know you're team Hurdle over Robert Thomas, and I just can't get there.
I think there's a good chance that Hurdle plays on the top line. Like I don't think he needs to play center because it was rumored that
Yeah.
William Karlsson was on the table in, an HS or Ellers or even a Mitch Marner trade, those sort of trades of, Theodore and Carlson for X, something like that. That doesn't seem to be materializing. It still could. And then obviously Hurdle would most likely be the 2 or 3C. But I think it's very possible that, Nick was a really good 3C, I think still. He's a luxury as a 4C. They could just do that, whatever. But Carlson is the 2, Eichel is the 1, was the 3, AHL guy is the 4. And you're feeling pretty good with Hurdle on the top line. It's not super likely because I think Barbashev is more likely to be there. But with the power play, I think Hurdle's locked in on the first unit power play with Eichel, Stone if healthy, and a defenseman. I think he's the best of the bunch there. And that's a role I'd more like to bet on than, Robert Thomas, who has a pretty long history of, he could be Artemi Panarin and just decide to shoot this year, and that would be fun. But I'm not sure that he has, we had the same discussion last week, I think, literally verbatim. So I'm not going to rehash it too far.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that maybe this is just like, hold on, sorry, let me just ignore this update. I think the revisionist history in me it is sort of getting on the side of like, okay, well, what happened last year that was my biggest mistake? You want to say the player that was my biggest mistake that I didn't draft? Enough of. I mean, I didn't have 0%, but let me just see if you could guess this.
I'm not sure I could tell you because, who was it?
It was Artemi Panarin, definitely. Panarin, 100%. I may have had 2 or 3 of 150.
I figured it was going to be a
guy
guy
unbelievably low. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we talked about him because he was. I mean, again,
no. I said Panarin's name.
Yeah.
I said Panarin's name in discussing Robert Thomas, saying I don't think he's going to be Panarin, but I guess he could. Like that's verbatim what I said. So
yeah,
I thought you were not building on that.
I'm going to be honest. I was very focused on trying to pull something up, and I was getting issues, and I wasn't listening at all. So I'm glad we've had this moment
to be expected.
Of normalcy. And I'm still working on it, so just give me a second. But I guess the point is like, if I'm already making this bet on St. Louis, I don't think it's wrong to grab that third piece because the ceiling on Robert Thomas is higher than it was last year, in my opinion. And like, I don't mind like if that all gets there together in the right, situation. I mean, I don't really know what that looks like, and I feel like I'm not very high on St. Louis, so it's kind of weird to be like. I don't know, but whatever. You do 150 drafts, you kind of have some fun.
Yeah, well, sometimes when you fade Panarin, you finish third in the finals because Trocheck and Lafreniere have 5 games and go absolutely apeshit in those 5 games, and you don't need Panarin anyway. So, the fade was obviously correct.
So, yeah. When am I up again? Okay, you're up in 4. No, I was recently kind of looking through Robert Thomas because I was like, maybe the rates were never unbelievable on the year. I mean, 4.35 shot attempts per game in the last 20. I kind of like messed around with this, see like, kind of where it was at. It just kind of felt to me like, it did get better from like all 82 to the last 20. Like, what do you need it to be at though, to give you hope that it could, again, like it's kind of hard to say. I would say the one thing that he did do towards the end of the year was shoot on the power play a lot more, which definitely gives me a little bit more hope for what's to come. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to go crazy on it, but I'm definitely going to grab pieces, like I'm definitely going to go and get some of him because I do think if that 4 point whatever gets to 6, holy crap, this guy's going to have how many assists, how many goals could he get on that power play if the shot is coming together. So let's see what you do here. Pedersen, Scheifele, Kaprizov, Kempe, Tippett, Batherson, Michkov, DeBrusk, Hamilton, Faber, Chychrun, Shesterkin, Wool, Thompson. And your second to last pick is?
Let's cap off the Ottawa, Batherson, Norris, just see if that can hit together. We talked about Norris, and I was a little afraid of it. But the more I've read, the more that I feel relatively comfortable with his timeline to be at full go start of the season. And frankly, if I'm going to be scared of what I think is Ottawa's best goal scorer having a bum shoulder, then like there's really no sense in playing fantasy sports. Like, guys get hurt all the time. He's literally going last, last round. I'm not super. I think I should have, at least 8% Josh Norris. Like, I know he's going to be less than 100% by the field. So, less than 100% drafted. So he'll be less than 8%. But if I have 8% Josh Norris, I'll feel like I've done myself a pretty good favor because, with the Pinto talk, and it's not just you, I've listened to multiple podcasts talking about breakout players or whatever, and, trying to sort of get a sense of who the chatter is going to be about. And, Pinto is getting a lot of buzz, and I just can't get there. I don't think Pinto's very good. And we've seen Josh Norris be an actual difference maker for fantasy. And he's being artificially suppressed by his injury history, which of course is scary, but I think that's just part of the game we play.
Yeah, well, perfect transition with the last pick. It is Ivan Fedotov, right?
Yes.
Fedotov. Let me make my pick really quickly. Oh my God. I might just do Luke Hughes. I mean, I just feel like taking a guy like Falk here when I already have two pretty big studs just feels like I might as well just make a little bit more on this New Jersey bet on a top end talent when we kind of know what Falk is, and I'm not going to add a fourth. But back to Fedotov. You do have one more pick, so let you make the pick as well, and then we'll get back to Jack Quinn's still here. I did notice that, but I was really between him and Stan Coven, but it kind of feels like a very similar bet in many ways. But anyways, I mean, I'm not really looking to hedge that bet. Like, I still think Ersson gets the majority of the starts, and like Fedotov has a much tougher. I think it's a tougher way of getting enough starts to make you feel good, just because he hasn't had much experience in it. So, like, assuming he's going to get you enough starts in any vacuum, like, let me just pull up Flyers quickly here. I mean, they had one other guy that I feel like, well, not Carter Hart. Maybe they're just not in this player pool. There's no way they don't have anyone else on this team, right? Flyers goalies.
No, they were pretty set on Carter Hart being their goalie of the future, and they were ill prepared. They have some guys overseas, I believe, that aren't in the States yet. It was pretty much Fedotov.
Though?
I don't think they even signed anyone else. Let's take like 10, 15
I mean, I guess maybe there's a little
do another draft, because there are some things that I think we want to circle back to.
Okay, let's stick on this one for now. I have not hedged that bet at all. I haven't had the problem to, but as goalies have continued to rise, it's getting much more difficult to get anyone at the end I feel good about. Like, I don't feel good about Freddie Anderson, but again, like, I don't know. I mean, is it really Gorchakov's net? Like, where I feel like Erisson's a bit more cemented in the starting spot. I don't know if like Gorchakov actually as cemented as you think. So yeah.
There's an athletic piece that's pretty good. There's 3 people with input, Sean McIndoe, whatever. He's the funny guy, but Wheeler and Granger are, serious analysts. I wouldn't say they're the best ever, but like decent enough. And so the Flyers, it's literally Ersson, Fedotov. There's really no other guys. There's Kolosov, who I believe will be their AHL goalie. I don't think he's remaining in the KHL. And then, they have some other guys who aren't going to be in North American pro hockey. Cal Peterson is not. He's not going to be called up. So I don't feel like there's. Like, Ersson and Fedotov are frankly not 2 guys I'm willing to make a bet on anyway. But, like, I understand if you are willing to. Like, I don't think it's bad process or anything. It's just a spot that I'm not really that interested in trying to parse right now, because I don't think Ersson goes late enough for me to really consider it. And obviously Fedotov just feels like the 1B. There were some other things. I don't know if you wanted to keep talking about goalies.
Yeah. Hey, let's keep on whatever you want to keep on.
Okay, so I was just gonna keep go through the ones we kind of didn't hit. I definitely agree with this. I So, when you say getting a guy after ADP, it only matters so much if the line doesn't close there. Um, I'm not that worried though about Faber's, like ADP falling too far below where I got him, like in my current draft. So I don't think I'm losing that much on closing line ADP. By the way, the next piece I post probably this weekend will be about closing line value. Like I wrote my piece for the newsletter, looking at like ADP capital and sort of how to invest by position. I've redone those same exercises with actual, closing line value and like current ADP value. So trying to see, do you invest in different positions, but get value, so to speak? Does it make a difference? And then also just as your team in general, how do you filter as far as getting a ton of value, not getting any value, those sort of buckets in between, to do some analysis there and sort of try to quantify like the advantages and disadvantages of reaching and, getting value with ADP. So that's going to be the main exploration for my next newsletter. So definitely more to come as far as ADP is concerned. Otherwise, I don't think that if Hurdle's on the top line, he would be playing the left wing. I feel like he would be playing that Holtz Olafson right wing, which, who knows if Hurdle can do it. I just feel like Cassidy's smart enough to be like, if he's our best option, he's going to figure it out because Hurdle's a damn good player. But ultimately, not a huge deal either way. This taking Wool and Stolars, I think that's inherently terrible process. I don't even think it's bad. I think it's absolutely terrible, because you're betting on such a specific circumstance of not only does a guy take the net, but then he has to give it back in the most like clean cut way possible, or else you're effectively burning two spots. Like if you have a guy who is starting 41 games this season, you're probably screwed because that's getting spread out across, 24 weeks of best puck. I'm trying to think of how even reasonable it is to say, oh, well, maybe it's 20 weeks of best puck. That's still only 2 starts a week. You do not want 2 starts per week. You want 3 starts in a week. You want at least one goalie with 3 starts in a week. You want a goalie with basically 2 good games and a so-so game every week, at least. If you can get 4 games, great, but that's probably not happening. The second you're left with 2 guys whose upside is 2 starts per week, I just don't think you're outscoring your problems in net with like game by game upside. Like it's just a numbers problem that I don't think you can solve. So you basically need to go from, okay, this guy's getting 3 starts a week, 3 starts a week, 3 starts a week. He gets hurt, backup comes in, he gets 3 starts a week, 3 starts a week, and it has to happen at the point where like it's a perfect balance. Like you need both guys to offer more value than a comparable pick. When you can get Tristan Jarry right around Wool, like, odds are Tristan Jarry is going to have more 3-star weeks if Stolars is a relevant player this year. So I think that's really bad process. And we've seen it before with like the Boston guys, people would do that. It's just not, to me, it's not good process. I don't have any statistical evidence behind that. But I think it makes sense as far as the scoring is concerned and sort of thinking through things that way. Anything else that we didn't get to? I think we've mostly covered the chat now.
Honestly, I feel like the Panarin situation is an interesting one to look back on just for a lot of, obviously the main one that I mentioned is that I was very wrong on it. And the question is, was fading him wrong? Or again, did I just, was it a good process, bad result, or was it? And my opinion on that is like there are certain guys like a Panarin that are just maybe it's just a completely different ballpark. Like, are there guys that I could find that had any similarities to what Panarin is as a player that could make that kind of jump? Probably not. I'm not sure if there's anyone that's at that level of like clear superstar that just didn't shoot.
I would say Jesper Bratt is a good one off the top of my head. just similar.
Yeah.
But there's
Sure.
maybe a bit less of an alpha component to Panarin because Adam Fox is really good, but he's not an alpha. Mika Zibanejad, I think, would have been considered an alpha, but certainly
Well,
not the last couple of years.
yeah, I mean,
And Vinny
it's
Trocheck was
funny.
like
It
the
is funny
unknown
to think
alpha.
that Savannah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say Zibanejad's decline last year is part of the reason why Panarin got there in such a dramatic fashion. It's
I think
like
so.
the power play really did open up for Panarin to shoot on. It also made that, Zibanejad and Kreider were killing penalties. They were not as much of a factor at 5-on-5. They couldn't find anyone that could boost them at 5-on-5, so they just really didn't care. So then Trocheck, Panarin, and Lafreniere were the line to make all the offense. And while Trocheck was shooting a good bit, there was still so much offense to go around that Panarin just inherently was probably told to shoot more and did. I only see a few scenarios where that could happen again. One of them is just for Bratt, for sure. I do agree with that. And again, I still think Robert Thomas has a little bit of it, just maybe not anywhere near the same level and not as a premium position. So I'm not saying he's going at the wrong spot, but if you're already betting on St. Louis, like, okay, if I think he could have a bit of an explosion, that's going to come with the benefit of at least one of those two wingers, if not both, where they did play together quite a bit last year. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to find the right archetype, but guys that progressively shot more over the course of a season that clearly have, I don't know what I want to give Robert Thomas 100-point upside, but I mean, didn't you
Yeah,
have
I'm gonna
90 or
call it.
close to it? Like, kind of.
I'm gonna call it puck on a string potential. Just Panarin's the
Yeah,
guy
that's
lugging the puck
easy.
everywhere. Robert Thomas is very similar in the fact that if you're imagining the power play for St. Louis, it's very plausible that you see Robert Thomas sitting there, stick handling like that. That to me is the sort of player who I think could change their I Corsi rates as far as their shot attempt rates in a way that is uh, basically noteworthy enough to jump them from a relatively weak fantasy option at their current price to a guy who is very strong for fantasy on the sole backing of not only their talent but also their shot volume and then their goal scoring as a result of that shot volume. Do you want to pop in another lobby, see if we can fill another one in the next 10 minutes or so?
Sure. Yeah. So again, just showing Robert Thomas stats right now. The volume
All right, 5
nearly
more.
around a double mark. Around a double mark. The shots on net a bit lower, but the shooting percentage has always been high for him because he has been again a guy that shoots a lot more on the power play, a guy that is a bit more selective. It's not that this is because he is Ovechkin. It means he's just been more selective. But that's Panarin too. You see similarities, and again, it's just doesn't mean you should take him 20th. I just think that when you're talking about him versus Hurdle and you like Hurdle more and you're projecting something I don't know. I would tend to go back on that and just say that I actually think that there is a bit more upside in Robert Thomas than you think. So yeah, that's kind of I think it's important
Yeah,
to
no,
note that kind of
I
stuff.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate the argument. It's more a problem of just the position he's playing. It's tough to find that sort of upside is like Panarin hitting that is so much more useful because how limited wing is toward the end of drafts and just there's two of them and so on and so forth that it's so much more likely that a guy like that is going to score much more. An interesting guy to look into for that same reason. Honestly, maybe even Matthew Barzal though had a very similar jump in his
Yeah.
rates,
Yeah.
and I believe if you look at the second half of the year, it was even crazier as far as just how
Yep.
much more he was shooting than his history. But that's mostly priced in already. He's probably in that Panarin range from last year, maybe a touch later. But yeah, maybe another guy who could take yet another step forward, just with this new role alongside Bo Horvat.
Right. Right. So yeah, I mean, I think these are really important notes to make. And again, I mean, there's a lot of guys in the NHL window that can do this throughout the entire lobby, the entire draft, because the pool is just inherently going to have a lot more. 16 rounds of hockey. I don't know. I mean, it's just clearly going to be deeper than NFL because, yeah, I guess there's not as many roles to go around in football, and there's less picks in hockey. Is that just it?
Yeah.
Am I
There's
overthinking this?
also less there's less players scoring a week in hockey. You know, if we had 12 players scoring in a
Yeah.
week, then yeah, these
Okay. Yeah, I got your
conversations would
point.
be much more relevant because you're talking, you know, we need contributions from these lower end guys. Like your third wide receiver, you know, has to score in NFL. We just don't really have anything like that in
Yeah.
NHL, so we're sort of left. You know, players can outperform their medians at the lower end, and it can just not matter really. Versus like if you know, if Wandell Robinson outperforms his median this year, like it's going to be useful, even if he's not like a super high end option. But if you know your wing 50 in the draft actually performs like a wing 40, it's probably not affecting your advancement rate much at all. Like just because you know you need those wing 20, wing 10, wing 5 type outputs to just score in a given week. Something that I was trying to code up before we went live is just looking at the scores at each position that scored and sort of the probability that, you know, say a guy scores 28 points in a week. What are the odds that that score scores? And then just sort of putting that on like a massive grid with like shading to just sort of indicate, you know, it's 100% of the time at 39, or I don't know what the actual number is. But so I'll try and share that in the next day or so. I ran into some issues with trying to get Chat GPT to tell me what to do. But I was sort of interested in investigating that just to see like, you know, what actually are we shooting for? You know, are we shooting for 25, 35, 45? Like, I frankly don't know. And obviously it differs by position as well. So that might help frame these arguments a bit better as well as we wait for one more person.
Yep. I'm gonna actually exactly what we were just doing in that conversation about Panera, and I'm gonna try to find different players that I think could make a big jump, like a player did last year, and I'm gonna try to make it into a video. I have an idea. It's starting now for how I'm gonna do it. It's not gonna be the top quality in the world, but whatever. Holy crap! I mean, this is just comical at this point.
Back to back. Well, one, we're back to back. You're drafting one after the other, but Bates back to back 101s. What does he do here? He also asked a question. Favorite places to get training camp news, updates. Yeah, I have lists on Twitter that I honestly don't peruse right now. So like there's probably good local beat reporters that are, you know, putting stuff out that might be interesting. If I get bored, I might scroll those from time to time. But right now, like in the dead of the summer, I'm basically on every single athletic article posted. Some teams, of course, don't have guys that are dedicated, so you know it's a little bit skewed as far as like, yeah, I'm getting a lot of Chicago pieces that you know obviously Chicago only has a few guys that are interesting. But yeah, the Athletic for me is the absolute go-to just because it's all housed in one place. But I also have lists on my Twitter. I have Peak Moods and just navigate to my lists. And I have one for every team. If there's a certain team you're interested in, you could search in that list for, you know, a certain player's name or something like that. Or I have an NHL tab where if you just keep that open and you're bored at work and you just want to pop open a few tweets or article links, I think that would also make sense as well. So I get handed the 4. I will take Pasternak. That's a pretty easy decision for me. I loved Kucherov last year. I think I had like 30% of them, but I think Kucherov is a relatively weak 5, and that Pasta is a strong 4 as far as ADP is concerned, or like your general ranking. So happy to take Pasta there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was pointing to myself the whole time and trying to make it funny for people watching along. But yeah, I'm gonna try to post as much as possible when I see anything fantasy relevant. And like, if I'm quote tweeting something from a reporter, it's because I think it could be. So just if you're not following me, you know,
Speaking,
I'm trying to post less absolute garbage.
Speaking of news, I've been posting a few things in the Discord as we go, in the main channel. So the dog app is where we discuss, you know, underdog in particular. The general news I'm finding, I mostly just post in the main, the hashtag warning -gate -pod. Something that I found interesting was Ottawa's projected lines. Kachuk, Stutzla, Giroux, Perron, Norris, Batherson, Greg, Pinto, Amadio. Obviously not set in stone. We're not even into camp yet, but the drumbeat for Shane Pinto, I think, is a little bit
Yeah.
driven by last year, and I don't believe that it's a given that he'll play alongside Brady. And in fact, I think it would be pretty bad if he were to, just because I think they have two better options at center.
Well,
Um,
I mean, it was literally like a week ago that we got any indication that he was alive. Like Shane Pinto literally was the reason. Shane Pinto was like, Josh Norris is going to be back. Like he's back. It's kind of ironic, right? I mean, and then other people in Ottawa were like, yeah, this is good. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess Shane Pinto dug his own fantasy grave. I'll send flowers.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I just thought this was interesting. I mean, that was
yeah.
That's,
I mean, I guess while I'm scrolling through, let's see. I have pasta. I don't really care about Jake Gensel there, so I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go get my guy. I'm gonna go get Ovi. Pasta Ovi start sounds fun, so I'll do that. I think the Ovi disrespect is pretty insane. But for the Islanders, projected lines: Duclair, Horvat, Barzell, Brock Nelson, and Kyle Palmieri on the second line. Maxim Stiplikov. It's he had 31 goals in 65 games of Spartak, and I believe that's the KHL. Could be Finnish, but I think that's a KHL team. And Lamorello said he did not sign Saiplikov to play in Bridgeport, so that's relatively interesting. I'll do some more actual analysis on the player closer to the season, but just a name to keep in the back of your mind. Maybe not for this format, but if you're in a deeper league fantasy wise, interesting that he's already being talked about as a potential top 6 contributor for the Islanders. And Columbus hired a new coach. That's the last thing I think we should address.
Dean Evason. I don't know. I just don't. It's probably the best they could have done, it seems like, but not anything that matters that much. I don't know. Like, what else were they going to do?
Yeah,
so yeah, let's recap our teams. Oh no, what are you gonna say? Let's say your piece. Dean Evason.
I think the Dean Evason thing is better news for the bangers and grinders than like a Jay Woodcroft. So like, I feel like Boone Jenner has fringe fantasy potential. I'm probably not going to get there myself, but if we're talking like a net front presence, I can't really imagine any of their young guys being tasked to do that under Dean Evason. We saw how productive Joel Eriksson-Ek was. I'm not saying Boone Jenner is Joel Eriksson-Ek, but like if there's any corollary, like I think that's the guy who's just like net front. He obviously has gifted passers around him, and Kent Johnson and Gaudreau and Chinikov, I think, showed out last year. Fantilli. So like it is possible that if he's there on the top power play, he can be productive. And I think that the Dean Evason hire is best news for him, just on an individual level. But yeah, it's not the most inspiring hire. But they could have gotten much worse, I think.
No. Yeah, that's the good way to put it. So through 3 rounds, turning into 4, I am sitting here with Nathan McKinnon, Kyle Connor, and UC Saros. Matt has Pasternak, Ovechkin, and Caulfield. So, but goalie avalanche is kind of burying him, but I think did an okay job of navigating it, although ending with Freddie Anderson wasn't the best. But I still got Omar and Jari last time, which is not the worst case scenario. So we'll see how his team turns out, but clearly winning the winger conversation pretty handily right now. Nothing crazy yet. I think there's only one kind of like Swayman going 32 to GA was obviously a little different, but you say 37. I mean, he's flying up the boards. Kind of an interesting one to talk about when we think about guys that could get a lion's share of the net. Are you at all thinking that maybe Swayman is a bit of a value still and could go up, or do you think Korpisalo in this system in Boston could maybe get enough starts that because then Swayman hasn't ran the net before?
That's my main
Okay.
issue with taking him in this tier is just that I don't feel like it's a given that in a fully healthy season, Swayman gets 53 starts. It feels like they could very well go, here's 47 starts, and sure, he'll have a lot of good weeks and probably be just fine. But I do feel like you can do a bit better than him in that range. Like I prefer Vasi, Georgiev, Sorokin, Ottinger all over Swayman personally. But that's I think mostly based on role. But you could make the talent argument that Swayman is better and he's younger, so he's like going to be healthier. I think that's all viable.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna grab Verhage here. I don't have a metric ton of him right now. I've mainly been taking Barzal, and I think that honestly they're probably not that far off. Like I don't know. I think that maybe I'm gonna sneeze actually. I think, but Verhage, I feel like his role is pretty cemented with like playing with the Chuck and being a big factor on the first power play. So I don't mind that at all. Also going to grab more Cairo. I just keep doing it. I don't care. I can't be stopped.
I'm going to
Puts
take my
you in
first share
quite
of
the
Sidney
bind.
Crosby. I have Sid and Ovi.
Okay.
My 2011 team is absolutely
Wow.
stacked.
Yeah, you're to the moon. Stonks all the way. Yeah, no, I mean, I was hoping that Barzal or Tippett would get to me, to be honest. I have taken Konechny over Tippett as well. So any of these guys, and Sveshnikov, I kind of felt like I was optimistic that someone would get back to me with the Konechny, Sveshnikov, Kairu situation. But I think I was most optimistic about Barzal. I just keep going back to him. But this has been an interesting draft. Centers certainly falling. No one doing anything. It's really all that stupid. I mean, we did see a Leon Jack Hughes at the turn situation, but I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah,
We'll see how it Bacard saved it.
Yep, I was interested to see how he
Mm-hmm.
handled this next run here. Because frankly, if you don't take a center until the final round and you start those two, like it's
Mm-hmm.
probably okay. Like you're gonna have to get heavy and wing and goalie and obviously get to you're gonna have to get things right. But like the flex position does give you flexibility. Like I can't
Mm-hmm.
say I hate the process as long as you sort of do it correctly.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting way of doing things. I think it's worth trying out, especially if you're looking at maxing and stuff. And as we get closer to September and stuff, you're going to see more people just jumping all over center early because, I mean, frankly, taking Tage Thompson at 58 instead of Chris Kreider is clearly like one of them is a better player and probably a better fantasy asset. Unfortunately, the system is not worth that. Yeah,
Yeah,
could Daniel McCurdy's there. You could just not take a third center. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's fine. The only issue is that center is such a high scoring position that there is a trade off there as far as you're getting an eighth wing or a fourth goalie or whatever you decide to do. That like your flex position does inherently get weaker on the off chance that Edmonton or New Jersey has a 2 game week or a guy gets hurt for a couple weeks. Those points will be harder to replace with other positions. But yeah, I certainly think that's a viable strategy as long as you're being thoughtful with how you're
I have a
drafting.
I have an interesting question. As we get to our picks here. So let's get to actually I'm gonna let you say your pick first, and then I'll get to what I was gonna say. So let me, you're on the clock right now.
Yep,
You're
I'm
up.
gonna
We're in the
stay
same
ahead of
build,
the
so let me let you make your pick.
goalie avalanche, Tristan Jari. I took Wool last draft. I think Jari here makes sense. Yeah, I have Sid. I have options. For my pick 100, 120 or so if I want to.
Okay, I'm gonna do Marchand. I'm gonna double think. So what I was gonna say is on my last round pick, I kind of went over how I considered taking Barzal, didn't, ended up going with Verhage. In football, the example is normally like, well, if you like, let's say, you took a you skipped over a receiver and then took his quarterback. It's kind of weird. Like, does he have any consideration of like, well, I skipped over Barzal. Do I take Dobbs in here? And then you're sort of in that situation of like, does that matter at all in hockey, or are you just thinking like, who cares?
I don't know that it matters. I think about that sort of thing though. Because in each draft you're effectively placing, a series of correlated bets. Like as soon as you put a guy into your lineup, you're saying, oh, this guy is hopefully the guy that I need to, have success this year. So from that perspective, I think that that makes sense. I'm going to take Lucas Raymond from this glut of wing options. It's not the most appetizing set of what the hell do you have set up?
Whoops! I clicked on projections. I was like, wait, what the heck is that?
Okay, yeah.
I was waiting for you to make your pick though. I was kind of listening, and I didn't want to like mess with anything because I thought I had to refresh, but no,
I was so confused. I looked at the screen. I'm like, it's all purple. Like, am I missing all these center options? But yeah, okay.
No, okay. That is on me.
I don't remember what I was saying now.
You were saying that about Raymond, and then we were getting back to
the bets. Betting. Yeah. So like if I'm forced into a 50-50 between, let's say Pasta over Kucherov, like for the rest of that draft, like I sort of have it in the back of my mind, like, okay, I could have taken the Kucherov path. Why would I want to share points with the Kucherov path, by taking a Hedman and a Point or whatever? Like, those aren't two guys I'm necessarily high on anyway.
Right there. Like,
I guess so. Yeah, I guess the Gensel thing, that wasn't what I was thinking about. It was mostly just Ovi Gobert. And I want to be like 25-30% Ovi when this is all said and done. So like, why not do it there? But I think that is a useful way to think of things, just because, at the end of the day, you are sort of fighting these uphill battles to just make a shit ton of money. So like, if everything goes right in one draft, that pays for your season. But it's probably like the 17th thing you should care about, and really only if you're super comfortable drafting with all the other tenets that we have in place. Should you be really thinking, oh, well, 7 rounds ago, I decided to take this guy, so I shouldn't take the other guy's teammate here, because, it's probably a tiebreaker, if anything else.
Yeah. I think that's honestly, I think you phrased it the right way from the start. And I was kind of going to agree. It's like, don't not take a guy that you have much higher than another, but if it's pretty close, like maybe it's worth considering. I think it matters a lot more in football, and like, I do think that, in hockey, correlation just matters a bit less because this is not as obviously defined. Like, the quarterback is going to throw the receiver. He's not, he can throw to anyone, I guess, but you know what I mean? Like, most of the time they're going to throw to receivers and tight ends. And like in hockey, you might take Larkin and Raymond and their coach is just an idiot and he breaks them up for no reason. And then all of a sudden Larkin is, useless almost. I don't even know if it's useless. They're both just not getting there together anymore. So there's, I guess, better paths out of that scenario, or like other ways of doing it. I don't know. The goalie question. I've mentioned this probably every stream at least one point, just a touch. Is like, I think they're kind of universally going a little bit late, just because of how important they are. So I don't mind jumping up because I think over time they're just going to continue to climb. But I don't think it's like they're going early. I think, like last year, Shesterkin was going at the turn. I think it's pretty much just it feels tougher because people are jumping the line, but it's going to move that way. So, smart drafters probably realizing that most of these guys are going to continue to climb.
I will wrap up goalie here.
You are a real piece of shit. Do you know that?
I figured you wanted Buchnevich.
Yeah, honestly, I was going to take Morrissey after I took Kemper, but I'm just going to do Morrissey with Kyle Connor. Just going to do it. I'm going to grab. I have no D.
I definitely did not. I do not think Morrissey was getting back to us after the turn. Maybe.
Everyone had one defenseman, so I got a little nervous. Also, please do not quote me saying I have no D, and do not use that. Do not use that clip. I didn't mean it like that. I meant it. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Morrissey is just an interesting. Like, I don't know. I feel like I was so high on him 2 years ago, and then last year he kind of jumped the shark a bit, and now it feels like he's just right. I just haven't gotten a lot of him. Well, you know what?
Yeah, I will. I will never forget the WHL stats he put up, and then proceeded to do next to nothing with for the next eternity until his. I would say last year was a pretty big breakout. He suffered after Truba left, and then last year he just sort of absolutely went apeshit. So um, yeah, he's a guy who I also feel relatively low on, but it's
Yeah,
hard to get to him when guys like Eric Carlson go right with him, and that's a guy who I'm looking to be pretty high on. And in this Sidney Crosby draft, I pretty much had this looked at from the second I clicked Crosby. Like, how can I because like for this sort of thing, I think stacking around Sid is you're betting on the team just being good. You're betting on Pittsburgh being a playoff team instead of the bottom dweller that they were for most of last year. And so what happens if Sidney Crosby puts up a solid season? Well, he's probably bringing his number one defenseman and his goalie, and like these guys are probably not being priced as if they are on a playoff team. So in this world, I've sort of created, okay, Pittsburgh is a playoff team. What happens?
yeah. I mean, maybe GA missed the little bit of a Joker talk we had earlier, but I absolutely was pumping his bags at 16, 15, 14, 13, the 12th round. 11th, I took him in the 10th. I'm absolutely not taking him at 92. Like, once we know the answer to the final Paterka, question of where he exactly is, if he's on the top power play, once we have all the factors in mind, I still don't think he's worth 92. The best result. We have not seen it at the professional level. There's other guys there that can take up a lion's share of the shots. Maybe not the biggest factor on the top power play in the world. It might be exactly correct in some realm with the prospect pedigree if you believe in it, but in reality, I think we've gone too far for sure. And I went from having 80% to I'm probably looking more like 35 now because there's no way I'm taking him over like even I don't know. Quentin Byfield, that probably not. Like think about the second overall pick, kind of the window opening up pretty clearly for him. Taking him over, it's just so many guys in this range that it's like, like Batherson, Hagel, Busnevich. I mean, Gunther, I think is kind of an interesting one to think about, but just feels like the shot volume just inherently should be higher for him. But yeah, it's gone too far. Yeah, you're very quick bonus to unlock Morrissey. Good comment there. And then I mean, I don't know. Again, like Morrissey is a guy that like when I take Connor, I'm definitely more inclined to take, and I think that that's sort of just like what happens with everyone. So I don't think it's going to be very uncommon, but whatever. Not a big deal. Enough people will not have it as well. So let's make our picks here, and then we'll get to the next question. But yeah, Matt, you're on the clock here.
Yeah, a lot of players that like if I could trade down 5 slots and pack up additional draft capital, I certainly would do so. I'm gonna make sure I don't get another Brock Faber, so I'll go with Nick Suzuki to go with Cole Caulfield. Just with Sidney Crosby, I do feel like there'll be some pretty down weeks, so I'm okay investing in these higher end centers in the mid rounds instead of like a true flyer late. So whatever. Nick Suzuki is probably a little bit of an overpay at this ADP, but I'm fine with it because I'm mostly just betting on Cole Caulfield weeks.
Yeah, I think Dustin Wolf's going too early here too. I have kind of a weird goalie trio of Saros, UPL, and Wolf, but yeah, I might buy in a little bit. Again, it's kind of interesting to say like Arison versus Wolf. That one's kind of been one of the back and forth on two pretty bad teams. One that outperformed and one that underperformed last season, both bad though. And then you have Vladar has shown some level of quality and backup ability, whereas Fedotov has had one NHL start and got pounded by the Sabres. I feel like it's interesting that like the Arison was going a little bit earlier. It switched pretty dramatically. So I feel like you are a bit more Team Wolf. So yeah, just kind of pick your brain on that.
Yeah, it's mostly just the unknowns. Like, they traded for Devin Cooley to be their AHL goalie. It seems like so that risk is completely gone for Dustin Wolf, in my opinion. Obviously, with the Markstrom trade, then it's wide open. Um, Ultimately, I just think there's some better likelihood that Calgary is a better team than Philly, and maybe that's wrong, especially if Mitchkov is as good as I'm thinking he'll be. But like Wolf getting the net for 48 starts sounds good. I'm literally just sitting here, McAvoy, Carlson, McAvoy, Carlson, McAvoy, Carlson. I have no idea, so I'm just gonna randomly pick one, and I guess McAvoy. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Okay.
that's a tough one to
Yeah.
choose. I just want both. Like I just somehow let me get both. Obviously not happening. But
Mhm.
that would have been my ideal. But yeah, it's not that I really think Dustin Wolf is like going to be the great savior or whatever. It's just that I think that he goes a little too late relative to the creep of the rest of the goalies. Because there is the path that he is a true alpha, that he does get 55 starts. Like it's not likely, but I think it's there versus it's not there for anyone else in this range whatsoever outside of maybe Elvis, which like,
Yeah.
God, no, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's in Columbus. First off, I think it's pretty obvious they're not going to be great. Um,
Yeah,
oh, okay, but I mean, Tarasov stole a good chunk of the net last year as well. Jet Greaves it was really good in the AHL last year, and fine in starts where he got called up. So it's like I feel like that is even a bigger unknown than maybe you think. As well as just how many wins are really there to go around, especially if they do try all three. So, yeah, I mean, with the Flames at least, it's like very obvious they've set it up for Dustin Wolf to come in and be hopefully as successful as possible. And in any vacuum where I think that they are successful, it's because of him. So maybe another one that people ask a lot about, like, do you stack your goalies with your teams? Again, like maybe the Flames are a little bit more interesting, where it's like maybe it gets a little bit of a boost around Wolf, but probably not necessary. Like you would think that Wolf is a big catalyst for their success. They're going to have to score as well, but like I don't know. Then I mean that question in general, like how would you answer it? I mean, team by team maybe is a bit of a cop out. So like, do you think there's anything to? Well, I already took Ov and Carlson. Now do I bet on one of these goalies as well? Or I mean, just any team really you could really think of.
that's not something that's not really something I'm thinking of uh, all that often. Like again, when I'm taking Sidney Crosby, like way after ADP, it's sort of like, okay, this is a Sidney Crosby team, and I'm just sort of making it easier for myself by taking paths of naturally differentiating my teams by players who I'm not normally getting pieces of. Like if every team I took Ovi, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna reach for John Carlson, I'm gonna reach for Logan Thompson or Lindgren, and I'm just gonna, and I'm gonna take Dylan Strome in the last round. I'm just gonna have a bunch of teams that have a very similar texture of one another. So these teams where I'm getting guys who I'm not normally finding on my rosters, um, I think that that's a more natural place for me to sort of build in these extra layers of like storytelling almost as far as like what needs to go right for this team to be good. So that's not really something I'm generally scheming out. Um, but yeah, it's mostly just, find value, plug in value, just make positional structure work is my main sort of mindset.
Well, while you're being an absolute asshole and not taking Elias Lindholm and taking Lehkonen from me, um,
I don't I have no interest in
yeah.
taking Elias Lindholm with this team.
But I wanted McKinnon Lehkonen just in case.
I see. I forgot
Mhm,
you had
mhm.
McKinnon.
Well,
I was not thinking to snipe you at all. I was just I mean I had four wings at the time, so I felt I really needed to grab a wing, and there's not power play one line one guys available, and I think Lekanen could be one, and if not, he's a damn good line two in Colorado to work with. Um, Obviously, unless it's just
I'm
unless Casey Middlestat's not any good anymore, which I think he's pretty good, but yeah, I think Lekkonen's locked into power play one,
giving,
and I don't feel good about anybody else here doing so.
Whatever. I'm just going to do the thing I haven't done much of and take Victor Arvidsson and not care. I got pretty buried at wing, it feels like. Just took Jonathan Hubert.
Yeah. Just a bet on a guy who is going to be line one, power play one because of his stupid contract. Like, I need guys who have that versus I don't really see a path for Logan Stankoven to be relevant in this contest. Like, everything that Logan Stankoven could be is basically just Wyatt Johnston. Like, is he really going to pass Wyatt? Because Wyatt has an uphill battle. Like, yeah, he's probably going to be the Pavelski replacement, but like you're talking about Hintz, Robertson, Ben, Heiskanen, almost certainly locked into power play one all year long. I have no reason to believe that Logan Stankoven's going to displace Jamie Benn as like the net front guy. So I'm just not like I'm not drafting Stankoven at this point. If he's in camp alongside Hintz and Robertson, maybe I'll consider it. But it's just so tough to get there without a power play one job. As far as like week to week upside, like Lafreniere did it, but like those are very very few and far between in my opinion.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's an angle for sure. I think he's at least relevant. I mean, the volume was there. There's clearly top six upside with a lot of skilled players, and like they definitely mixed around the power plays a good bit and allowed everyone some opportunity. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I would tend to say that maybe a little bit early, but as he's slipping in these lobbies, like I don't mind grabbing him. I took him last draft. Kind of felt like I'd run out of wingers as well. I mean, you're kind of hard pressed to find anyone that you're incredible drafts now at the wing position. Stab, but just how big of a stab you want to take. Do you want to take Gabriel freaking Landeskog, and pray the guy plays in the NHL game again? Do you want to take a guy that might be play one like a Jake Neighbors? And I think a lot of people are kind of seeing that 27 goals last year and thinking like, why is he not getting right? Like there's other guys with upside doesn't have ups. I think odd to me because we definitely saw an explosion like we haven't really seen before from a guy that jumped into the NHL. I mean, this was a guy that, if you recall correctly, people were like, should he be getting Calder votes with what he's done at the end of the year? And it's like, well, he wasn't even eligible. So that just kind of goes to show you just how much of a ceiling he has in the right position. And you're literally saying he could be in the right position. So why wouldn't you take a stab at that guy at the end of drafts rather than a guy like, I don't know, Jake Neighbors, who doesn't really shoot, but could score? Like, well, I don't know. Why not just make the bet on? There we go. Someone that listens. Love it. Perea or Perilla. Let me take your last guy.
I will take Shea Theodore. Yeah, let's see. Who was I going to?
I don't even think I'm going to think about this one. I think I'm just going to do the Forsling with Verhage thing and just close out D here. I have some options I still like around the bend here, so let's see what gets to me. I'm worried about Bates. Blanco's not in the team anymore. I was just worried someone was going to maybe take Forsling. I like him in the 14th, 15th. I really like that. That's a bet I'm willing to make on a guy for sure.
Yep.
So
no, that makes sense.
I think Chikrin's fine too. Like I think both of them are a good bet at this, in this range. I was really thinking about Schmaltz too. That was the guy that I was really debating on. I'm gonna grab Cousins. See what happens. I'm gonna end up being very high in Dylan Cousins, I think. I've gone over this like every stream on why, and I drafted him like every stream, and I'm going to be really high on him, especially at ADP. But I just think that there's uh, a lot of potential in him as a young player that's already proven it. You're on the clock. I think you're thinking about
I
it.
am, yeah.
But this is a guy that had 30 goals and was flying up the boards last year, and as he grows, kind of decided against it a little bit. But as he slid this year, I wonder if he couldn't catch some magic under Lindy Ruff. It's a bet I'm willing to go to, for sure. Especially when I already have McKinnon. And I mean, John Tavares is the guy that I kind of want to bring up to you. It's like last year, it kind of felt like a guy that we were like, doesn't really make any sense. He's slid as much as he did. And in this scoring system last year where he lost power play run, oh my God. You still got almost 700 points. And I know Fenner isn't everything, but I wonder, without Bertuzzi there, if he's a little bit more cemented in that top power play, if he's maybe we're undervaluing him at 123 or in that range as he continues to fall. Any thoughts on Tavares as your second center in?
Yeah, I like Tavares just fine. It's usually a position where I'm usually not investing a pick in that spot at center anyway, because normally I have a first rounder who I'm usually not needing. I'm not feeling pressured to cement with Tavares when I could get much more needed reinforcements in goalie and wing. But I like the player in general, and I think the role is about as pristine as it gets in the NHL. He's going to be alongside one of either Nylander or Marner, and he's going to be locked into that first power play. I don't see Max Domi supplanting him or Matthew Nyes or anything like that as long as Tavares is on this contract. So, I feel pretty good about Tavares this year generally, if not the most draftable, just given how I'm normally drafting.
As we come to our last picks, we did get a question about Macklin Celebrini, a guy that you could take at the end. Is it a guy that you've taken at all or are considering taking at all, or is it someone that you think you'll end up being a 0-1?
Yeah, I've taken a fair amount. It's mostly just an upside play. Obviously we just don't know. He could be if he's anywhere close to as impactful as Bedard was. I think playing with Tyler Toffoli is better than anything Bedard had to play with last year. So I like that right off the bat. And it's not the most, I guess it's not the most imposing division to play in or anything like that. I'm not really scared of any sort of matchups for Celebrini. He seems like he's able to just seamlessly play in the NHL. He's not small. He's none of these concerns even that you'd hear about Bedard last year. So I have no problem mixing in Celebrini as one of my final round picks. I can pull up how much of him I have, but it's at least a few shares.
I'm not even sure. I may have one, but we'll look back at this draft and then we'll close out. We are hitting almost exact time.
Yeah, I have 3 shares of my 14 drafts, so whatever.
There it goes. So Arison and Peterka are still way down. They were pulled through to 66, 70%. Both of them they both risen quite a bit. Peterka more than Arison, but both have risen a lot. Really also a big riser. Cousins not really rising, which is fine. I'm just going to keep grabbing him. And then I've done a lot of Kyrou Busname. It's just, it's not a bet on St. Louis as much as it's a bet on the only thing that they have. All they did in the offseason was kind of help solidify their bottom 6. And I just think that Kyrou, Busnevich, and Thomas are just going to be together pretty naturally. This is a team that was not great last year, very bad defensively. I don't think they got any better defensively either. I mean, with Krug going likely out for the year, much, probably worse, but I just don't think there's going to be a complete lack of goals. So don't mind that. And then, Carlson, I was buying on Svechnikov.
Yeah. The Forsling thing. I don't think it's Ekblad you need to worry about. I think it's Adam Boqvist now for Forsling.
It's Boqvist. 100%.
Yeah. I think the team is smart enough to realize that Ekblad just doesn't have it anymore. So I don't think he's going to get too much piled onto his plate. Like as far as workload, like I think playing top line minutes with Forsling at 5-on-5 and like a shutdown PK type role is sort of what they're going to try and do with him. They're not going to try and give him too much. And I think that's why they went out and got Anna Bookfist. Like they seem like a really well run front office. And I think they had a clear and obvious need to sort of replace the plug and play of like an Oliver Ekman Larson. You're obviously not going to get a Brandon Montour off the scrap heap, but like you can get an Ekman Larson who you plug in, you twist the key, and you get a guy who can play your power play, and which Ekman Larson did for a spell. I think Bookfist is the main impediment to Forsling taking that next leap, but given the time on ice and just general rates that Forsling showed last year, it's very possible that even without the rates that Forsling could have like a very light version of the Mackenzie Weegar season. So yeah, I don't know. It's certainly not a guy who I have 20% of. Like, sure.
Actually, do you want to recap the draft first?
I don't care. Whatever.
Let's just bring it. We can recap.
Okay. So
this and this. No. This.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. We're going to be up there.
Do you want me to share? Or do
we're
you want
going to be way up there. That's fine. I was going to recap the draft while you pull that up. Just really quick. Let's run through our games. I'm not going to go through every game. Audio listener, just so you know what we did. I, from the 3-hole, went McKinnon, Kyle Connor, UC Saros, Carter Verhaeghe, Jordan Kyrou, Brad Marchand, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Josh Morrissey, Quentin Byfield. I've been taking Kane there a little bit more than Byfield, so it's a little switch up for me there, taking Byfield. Dustin Wolf, the closeout goalie, a little bit early, but kind of felt like I had to with not a lot of extra depth behind Saros. John Tavares, we went over. Noah Hannafin, I grabbed him again. Just kind of felt like he was best available at defense. Victor Arvidsson, I don't know if that's my first or second share. Taking Akira there just as he's fallen in drafts. Just there's still some level of upside, I think, in that guy. Forsling, who we're talking about right now. Dylan Cousins, and I close it out with Jonathan Drouin to go with McKinnon. Not a bad bet. Do you want to run through your team or want me to just read them off?
Yeah, I'll just go positionally. At center, I have Crosby, Suzuki, Dylan Strome. Got Crosby 10 spots after ADP, sort of in that 4th, 5th round area. So at wing, I started off with 3 early guys in Pastrnak, Ovechkin, Caulfield as my first 3 picks. Capped off the room with Raymond, Lehkonen, Jonathan Huberdeau, and Alex Killorn. Killorn's just a guy who I think plays like a very similar role to what Tyler Bertuzzi is going to play in Chicago. And Killorn is, whatever. I'm not looking for much from that position, but I think he's going to be a guy who's, capable of getting me a 25, 30 point week if I need it. And again, like I said, I'll run some numbers to actually see what scores, how much does a 30 point week score? Like, is it 10% of the time? Is it 50? I have no idea. We'll see. But yeah, that's my wing room. At D, I have Erik Karlsson to go with Sidney Crosby. I have Charlie McAvoy to go with Pastrnak. And then I took Shea Theodore as my final D. Doesn't seem like he's getting traded. So I think it's a little bit of a bummer because obviously a team trading for him probably gives him a big contract extension as well. And thus features him a bit more than Vegas did after they got Hannafin. But I'll still take Theodore a little bit to just make sure I don't miss out on the dead cat bounce season after his injury plagued 2023. And then at goalie, I have Skinner, Tristan Jarry, Darcy Kemper. Pretty much reached on all 3 of them, but it's the goalie avalanche. I'm afraid I don't want to miss it. I feel like I can get good picks later in the draft and not have to worry about my goaltenders being benched and not starting. Okay, so
yeah, great. You want to show your exposures. I don't know. That's kind of
trying to get it to do the thing where it updates, but you got to click 74,000 times.
Yeah, I clicked it.
Exposures page.
I'm
So
sure everyone heard me clicking frantically as well, so don't feel bad.
I don't understand, how does this happen? Like, how is this a thing? Like like
I don't know.
but the DraftKings UI sucks. Like, oh, sure. Like the Underdog one does too. I don't get it, but whatever. We like Underdog because they have
Whoa,
NHL
those
contests.
are our friends.
They're all our friends.
Your cat's literally leaving behind you. It's like, what did you just say about my favorite app? I'm out of here.
Dude, I've been clicking on this apply button since I started talking. I can't get it. So okay, you're just gonna have to imagine that I have more Ovechkin than I do on this.
Refresh the page. Refresh the page
I
and click it
did.
again.
I've refreshed it 5 times and been clicking it constantly. I don't know what you want me to do.
How do you know it's not your fault?
Because it's
Have
not.
you considered it was your fault?
I am positive it is not my fault.
I didn't think about it that way.
All right, here's my zoom. Yeah, I can zoom.
How many? Yeah, what are you at then? So this is saying what, 13? What are you at?
I'm at 14, so I don't have that many drafts in.
Oh my God! Wait, hold on. Time out for a second. The king himself, the undisputed man of the people, the one who cared about hockey the most, has done significantly less than his counterpart. That's so strange.
Yeah, I was literally out of the country for a full week, and the contest has been up for 2 weeks. And I still, in that time frame, managed. Since the contest is launched, I've been away for 2 weeks. I've done 2 streams, I've done a full newsletter, and I've spent hours and hours in the Discord and on Twitter discussing my research and findings into this contest. Do you have anything to share besides just, oh, I'm going to draft this guy because his farts taste like glue or whatever? I don't know.
First off, that doesn't make any sense, and you shouldn't know what anyone's farts taste like, Matt. That's not okay. Bad behavior on your end.
No, that's
Why
you.
don't you just talk about the guys? You can't put that in me. I don't do that. You can't just say I do that when I don't do that. Okay, go over your players. Go over your top like 10 or whatever, like I did. If we have some good crossover here, just start talking. Yeah. We can stop the conversation at least for now.
Malkin,
save it for all.
Hey, look. He goes in like the last round. I'm okay. I'll take Evgeny Malkin. Thank you. Maybe he's bad now. I'll see. We'll see about that. Ovi. Wait, is he? Ovi's literally wing 18 off the board. That is completely egregious. Just yeah, he's Alex Ovechkin. Washington Capitals exist for him to shoot, and he is very good at putting puck past goalie. The first half of last year was a complete aberration. There was nothing like it in the modern era of hockey. He came back with a vengeance in the second half and will do so for the full season this year. Cutter, Harley, Gunther feels a little bit unfair to group in with those guys, but just sort of betting on continued progression for all 3. Bertuzzi, a very comfy last guy in because I feel very confident that he is line 1, power play 1 alongside Connor Bedard. Not a bad place to be if you are a hockey player, I would say. And then Matthews, Marchand, Kemper, Montembeault, Tippett, Toffoli, John Carlson. I think it all somewhat makes sense.
Yeah, this is just the dusty old vets of this draft. I mean, and everyone's just roasting you for it. I mean, this is just like, is your highest bill guy in NFL Adam Thielen, or what are we talking here?
Well, the problem with Adam Thielen is that I have, let's see, I think like 10, maybe 11 NFL best ball drafts on DraftKings. I've not done a single NFL draft on Underdog, so I don't know. Yeah, what you're saying? Malkin, Ovechkin, Marchand, Kemper, Carlson, maybe? Yes. Are they the olds that are being
Carlson maybe
roasted?
I have to pull in a little bit.
Because at the end of the day, Adam Thielen was never at the level of Adam Thielen was never even at the level of Brad Marchand. So like, come on, like that's absurd slander.
You know, I don't know my foosball players like you do. Okay, all right. Yeah, let's close this out. We're at 10 o'clock now. We could go on forever, of course, but 2 drafts, very quick, very good, good people here.
But DJ that clearly is not a man of the people.
Video games. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, DJ's not a man of the people. We could go all night, but we can't because DJ needs to go take a nap.
It's 10 o'clock. I'm going to go to bed. But my problem is that there's 2 days a week that I am not going to bed till midnight, no matter what. And now I need to be up at 7 a.m. every single day to go into the office during the week. So yeah, because I actually care about the sport of hockey and playing it and being a part of all communities involving around hockey, not just a Discord space, and growing the game is a passion of mine. That also leads to me playing a game last night against 5 dudes. I've never seen that before. I mean, I played games with 7 guys, a couple guys on the bench, like 8 recently. But my God, dude, what do you want from me? I got a new job. Like, they're in office. I am a loser.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a loser. You could be at home drafting and playing NCAA football all day long, and instead you're a working stiff in your office like a big boy. Life sucks.
Definitely a lot of growth. I do like who I work with already. It's been a lot of fun. And good. And I was already going in like 2 or 3 days a week, and this job is mainly just 4 days a week for most of the year. So thank you, Willis, for being a good guy. So if you have any 401k questions, you can reach out to me. I'm not going to sell you anything on it because we don't really do that. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, my plan. This was my actual plan, and I didn't think I'd have time to actually get it ready because I didn't know if we streamed today or tomorrow. But I was really gonna like reach out and just like ask anyone if they wanted me to like put a player in and make a Morning Skate podcast team builder team, and then play with people that were playing like in our drafting with us, and just draft while you played. And like I might borrow my friend's PS5 and play as well later on and kind of go back and forth. Although I don't think that works. Could you do a dynasty together?
Yeah, you can do an online dynasty.
I don't know. So I thought that'd be fun, everyone would be there, we'd be playing, they'd be them playing, like they would be the wide receivers and quarterbacks and things. And
I don't know if
you create recruits.
I don't know if you can do multiplayer games like that. I don't know.
No, I don't know about
but
that
yeah,
either. I just think it'd be fun, interactive way of doing things. I'm sorry. My bad.
I don't know. There are some things that are still
not a man of people.
Who cares? It's so irrelevant beyond the point. Like I think if we were streaming this, twice a week, and we wanted to do other content during the week, and still keep up with hockey news or whatever, and but the people want their drafts. Like there are so few hockey drafts to watch that people who are tuning in to watch us, I think, are not thinking, well, there's just so many hockey drafts. Like, can they do something else for fun? Like, can they invent new skills to entertain me? Like, no, we're here to be the hockey guys because we're the only hockey guys on July 23rd talking about freaking hockey. So I think that's why ultimately the no's won it. But I was surprised that there were so many yeses. I think those people were just in it to see me absolutely lose my shit on stream when we were 3 hours into the stream and we hadn't even finished a draft yet because I watched you try to add, whatever, Michael Mann 74 times into the team builder team.
So I think best bowl is the college football. I can't do it. I don't think you can do it either, right?
Yeah, no, I can't either. Otherwise, I would be grinding that really hard. Yeah, because that's just
I think there's definitely be nice there.
Yeah, you can project all you want, but yeah. Oh, Billy's showing up too.
Thank you.
The thumbnail is fire.
Billy, I took honestly. I took a lot of inspiration from you, so thank you. Yeah, I was trying different things out, honestly. Like, it can be silly sometimes, but I asked Matt tonight, I was like, what do you want me to name it? And he said, name it NHL Best Bug Draft for 25K. And I'm like, you know what? If we're going to go SEO route, we're going to try to do the whole thing, and we're going to copy Davis Maddock, let me just get a good thumbnail, and just beat some of these guys at their own game, Yeah,
I personally prefer the SpongeBob, and I think you should leave memes, but yeah, whatever. It works. As long as it has a thumbnail. I think that's the most important part.
Let me just leave on this note. Let me leave on this note right here. It's like, what can we do to grow the audience? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying maybe that you just can't. Like, maybe you just can't take NHL in the summertime and fantasy because maybe the NHL fantasy game has been dead for so long that you just can't do it. Like betting wise, it's going to be interesting because betting is very much a every night, always happening. There's an edge comparatively to other sports, all that stuff. What is it? Like, what can you do to grow best puck drafting? Like, what is it? I really don't know. I just feel like trying nothing new isn't going to do it.
I mean, I just feel like it would involve more streams from us and doing different things, like basically just ripping off, overs at bits and ship chasing and things like that. That like, like they probably just waste our time more than they grow the space. But I think that's the sort of thing that like, if we were going to commit to it, that's what we would have to do to actually draw attention for reasons other than, let's draft and try to fill. I mean, we filled 2 lobbies in an hour and a half. Like that's really freaking good for where we are right now in the summertime. So I don't feel like that's I feel like that's a pretty solid start. Like, good luck tomorrow night, for example, trying to fill 2 lobbies between 9 and 10:30. Maybe it happens, but like it's normally it takes a couple hours between drafts at this point.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, I already talked to Chris Meany. Like he wants to do a couple things together, and I know he's invested in the space and wants to be a part of it for sure, and like wants to get like and like that is great for Western Canada. Like I think he's actually in Nova Scotia, but what's his name? Oh my god, I'm blanking on the wrestler that he does shows with, but I think he's on Western Canada. Eric Young, yeah, I think he's on in Western Canada more, but like
I guess I don't know where he lives. He's a Nashville guy for like Preds. I think he lives in Nashville, but
I don't know anything, honestly. I was thinking for some reason that made sense, but I guess he lives in Nova Scotia. I know because I have done stuff with him before, and he's an hour ahead of us, which is so weird on the East Coast. No, I mean, everything is kind of on the table. Getting other guests, like, I mean, I don't mind reaching. I'd reach out to Dom Decision and be like, any thoughts? I just guarantee he would say like, no. Or he probably wouldn't answer, honestly. And like, even if I got a guy like Dom Decision to jump in on one of these, like, he probably wouldn't even really care about it. And like, would it really? I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't hurt, but like, it's just hard to thread the needle.
On that note, we are in intense negotiations with the Badge Bros to join them for a Best Buck stream coming up here. So we'll see if we can get our I's dotted and T's crossed. But that's also coming.
Yeah, I mean, I would do like a randomizer type thing. I just feel like I don't know who I'd get. That would like part of the entertaining value of the randomizer is they know all these players. Like they bring up Chase Claypool. I guess that's not a great example. I'm trying to think of. I watched the rest of. I'm just trying to. I mean, they bring up these incredibly random players, and it's funny because they know who they are. If I'm just like, all right, you have to draft Trevor Zegras in the 3rd round, they'd be like, huh? And that's not, what I mean? I'm not even naming anyone that's that insane, just a later round guy. It's hard. It's super hard. Like you would need, again, the fantasy football space, as I said from the very beginning, like if you talk about fantasy sports, everyone's assumes football. And for best ball, it's the least necessary product. It's just the most popular sport. Like fantasy football is fine in what it exists before best ball really got popular. In hockey, like I really don't like season-long fantasy. It's every single day. It's I mean, if anyone is gonna watch this later from our one fantasy league, they're gonna be like, yeah, you obviously hate it. You never set your lineup.
He's finishing like dead last every year for 5 years and just stays in it to continue. Like it literally takes 2 seconds to say start players for the rest of the week, and he just refuses to do it. Like it'll actually determine like playoff seeding. Because like if you play DJ in the final 3 weeks of the year, you just get an auto win because he's never logging into that website. It's incredible. It's the best.
Once I'm dead, I forget. And we do gold drafting, so it only hurts me more to get the first overall pick. Yeah, no. It's really stupid and bad. I could just leave, but I love being in the group. I love everyone in it. I'm gonna try again this year. I'm really gonna try. But yeah, I think again, like if you took a casual hockey fan and you're like, you are going to join a season-long fantasy league, like, I don't know, like you really gonna care about it? You know, like, are you really gonna? I can't imagine so. And like, so like trying to get all. I mean, it's clearly like the thing about hockey, and you look at any of the metrics on how they generate the revenue, and it has driven more revenue. People go to games. Like they're a gates-based revenue source comparatively to football and others. Now, I'm not saying they don't make a lot of money on that, but like they make money on a lot of other things. Like there's a ton of hard hockey fans, hardcore hockey fans. It's a different space in general, just with I think the information out there. But for some reason, it hasn't translated over to other avenues. And I feel like it's such a disservice, like what this product could be. And I don't blame Underdog really either, because I just don't know if it's worth it to them yet. I don't know how to prove it's worth it to them. Maybe if Ontario was involved and like could draft it all, that might make it a little bit more advantageous to try to get a bigger part of that market just on the site, right? But like until that happens, I'm like, once you get them on the site, then they can start picking pick'ems and whatnot, and it's hard. It's a hard game, so I don't blame anyone.
That to me is the biggest elephant in the room. Yeah, like that to me is the biggest elephant in the room, because frankly, I've been pretty impressed by not just Underdog, but what DraftKings has done over the last couple of years as well, as far as like actually pushing the envelope as far as hockey contests. And part of that's now the NBA has their civic duty nights for election night and I think MLK Day or whatever, where just the league takes complete off, and obviously the All-Star break. So like there are nights penciled in for NHL to take center stage. And to their credit, DraftKings has, pushed the envelope and made larger contests that mostly have filled. And that we did not see in years past, again, partially because it just wasn't scheduled in with the NBA in that respect. But this is all coming post Ontario closing. Like, what was it, 3 years ago? I was pretty scared that the DFS market would just die off for hockey because, you lose Ontario, come on, there were a lot of DFS players there. And then, of course, if you're in Ontario, you're more likely to be interested in hockey. So, the fact that it's grown the way that it has, and the fact that Underdog has gone from, I think it was a 50K contest, 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think, because 2 years ago it was 100 when you won, maybe 75 when you won. Mm-hmm. Last year it was 125. This year it's 200K. You can't say it's not growing. The space is definitely growing. And I think the elephant in the room is, okay, it's growing. What if, Ontario was still included? It's not really anyone's fault besides, the stupid politicians. But it's not really anyone's fault that this specific thing we're interested in is not growing. I just don't really see that as a problem, because it just feels like a fake argument, because it is growing. It is expanding and opening up the tent to more people. The only thing I've been disappointed in from the Underdog perspective is I thought the Zamboni contest could have been larger last year. I honestly don't know if it filled or not, but I remember initially being disappointed by the Zamboni contest, and that was about it. Everything else, the dailies that they've done have also been relatively consistent, and they've pushed it from time to time as well. So it's going to happen slowly, but I don't think you can argue it hasn't happened. So I guess I'm just not as negative as you are about the general tenor of things.
No, I don't know. Negative is obviously we're no disrespect to John, and I do think he actually has helped the hockey game, not even meaning to, just like he does care about the sport of hockey, obviously plays it and stuff. I guess where I was going with a lot of this is there is no one else doing it other than us. In reality, there's a few people maybe that are starting to get into it a little bit more because they already are doing it. They might as well try it out or whatnot. I think eventually just a couple sites might pitch in a touch. We have Billy Jones in here doing stuff, and it's gonna get out there more. But I guess that's kind of my frustration, is what I'm getting at in general about hockey comparatively to other sports is that hockey is not a part of the conversation. Football is a part of the conversation, and basketball is now a part of the conversation, and the women's side too. That is the conversation in sports media. It's never hockey. Look at the ESPN list for the top 100 players of all the top 2000s. Sidney Crosby's 22 or 23. This is a the best player of our era, but Phil McDavid came in, and Ovechkin's 55 or something, and it's because they're just not a part of the conversation. They're just not. It's a sport that doesn't matter that much.
Yeah,
It's a league that has not pushed the players into the upper echelon of stardom. And until I think, that changes, it's going to be a lot tougher. But I do think that like
that's
innovative
just a
products like this will
sport.
help.
Yeah, that's just a sport, though. I don't think that has anything to do with the gambling side of it. Like when Caitlin Clark gets a triple double, the camera doesn't immediately pan to the coach staring at an iPad to see if they can challenge to get that goal taken off the board for them being a toenail offsides. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like that's what kills the NHL is that just they don't invest in the excitement. They don't promote the excitement. They basically just do everything to cover their own ass constantly. And it's hurt the game over the last 30 years under Batman, but whatever. We can close
And
it
I'm
out because
very
we definitely agree
optimistic.
on that.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. Yeah, 100%. And that's just without question. I'm optimistic about the direction the league is starting to go in. I know the four nations might be stupid. I think it's going to be good for the league. I really think the Olympics is going to be a very big factor in getting people that are non-hockey fans to watch the sport and care about it for a little bit of time. And like that is the last time I think that hockey was in actual like, the main point of conversation was TJ Oshie in the Olympics. So and that catapulted him for a long time in even fantasy spaces of like being relevant. It changes the entire complexion. That's the biggest mistake hockey's made. I know some of these Winter Olympics would have been tougher than others, but yeah, what are you gonna say?
Even this comment, the Zegras thing. People knew who Trevor Zegras was because of the goal, like because of the flip pass, whatever, like the Sonny Milano. Like people knew what that was, like so like things like that like need to be part of the game and be like promoted and not like the Tyson Nash type people that are just like, well, actually, you should have clubbed him across the face with your stick because that's showboating. And it's like, no, that's scoring goals. Like that's the point of the sport. So until that mindset is changing, it's being forced to change because of how good these players are now.
Yeah, definitely. I was about to open up another can of worms of conversation. Maybe we could save some of it. We'll probably talk about this stuff every single stream. And yeah, there's a million mistakes, but I do think number one, first and foremost, it's like the TV deal has been better than it's been in a long time. And I do think ESPN is going to take a bigger push forward with it. And this scheduling thing right here that you just brought up is a big part of it. I know that it's known, and I know that I'm pretty much for a fact that ESPN doesn't like it, and like they're trying to help. So I think some of the anger may have been a bit misguided. In general, we'll see where it gets to this year. But yeah, I think that overall the league is starting to go in the right direction. Gary Bettman is going to just naturally get out of there. I'm not sure who's going to take over, but the league is just has to realize at some point that it can grow. And I just really, really, really believe in the sport in general. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if maybe a couple of years from now that we're not, I don't know, looking at 500,000 prize pool or something,
Yeah, hopefully. So yeah, keep drafting, get this thing filled. But also the side contest, I think, will also be a nice entry point if people want to spend, $3, $5 to do a draft. I think that option will be there come, August, September. And maybe that's a good way to market the sport too. The just getting eyeballs and attention to it where you're not investing, $10, $15 just for a shot to play with the Sharks, but you're doing a 20 max $3 contest or something like that as like an onboarding for 2K to first. Like that's just, like that's a really good way to just sort of grow the sport organically within, the contest.
And honestly, and not just for hockey, but like it doesn't matter if it's hockey or not, like bringing people into DraftKings or Underdog in the best ball space, showing them the format, like they're going to love it. If they like fantasy sports, if they like this stuff, like they're going to love it. I have so many friends that play a little bit, and we have friends from high school that literally max enter contests now because they're just like, this is so much freaking fun. Like, why would you not? So I do think that like all of it piles on each other. People will find sports they like. They'll find new people that, might talk them into trying hockey. It doesn't even have to be us. So I do think just introducing people to the game in general is really cool. Which guy are we looking at right now?
This is Samson.
Okay.
Hello, Samson.
Well, from Samson, from Doug. from Matt and
All right.
myself.
Yes, we will get out of here. I will probably try to draft another team if people in the chat want to try and draft, but I will be closing out the stream. So we will get out of here. Thank you all for tuning in. A lot of fun as always. We will be back next week, barring unexpected circumstances. Same time, same place. And yeah, that'll do it. So from Doug, from DJ, from Samson, and from myself, have a good continuation of Best Puck Summer, everybody, and we will see ya.